Hey, good. I can say good morning still, right? Yeah, it's still before noon on the East Coast. Good morning. Happy New Year. Welcome to Grounded with John Tester and Maritza Giorgio.
Yeah, happy 2026. We can't say we'll see you next year anymore because next year's here.
Well, you
Yeah.
might see us next year, hopefully.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I'm talking about, I remember when went to school, the bus driver, you'd get off at the end before the Christmas and he'd say, well, we'll see you next year. And we go, what? Well,
I
when next?
know. It would trip you up every time.
Time. And if
Trip
it'll
you
trip
up.
up a 10-year-old, it'll trip up anybody. I'm telling you.
How was your New Year?
Oh man, I'll tell you, house party after house party after house party. You wouldn't believe it. It was amazing. No, we went to bed at we watched the Miami Ohio State game, which was a hell of a game, and
Oh,
football game, and then shut off the light and went to bed. Yeah, went to sleep.
that
Yeah,
was off my radar completely. You like to give me a lot of hell for being hungover. I'm
yeah.
not hungover. I
Oh,
didn't even have one drink yesterday.
really?
But really, but I'm at my best friend's house in Hawaii. Don't feel bad for me. I'm at my best friend's house in Hawaii. My son's still sleeping over there. And in Hawaii on New Year's Eve, they go crazy with fireworks. Like
Oh,
like
cool.
not a little bit. Like a lot. So all night. I mean, it was just and the poor dogs. I feel like my friend's dogs they were just shaking all night. And I think about veterans too. And it's really intense here. Fireworks here, it was the most intense fireworks experience I've ever lived through.
Really? Really?
So yeah, I was up all night. They were going off all night. So I'm a little tired, but that's okay. Happy 2026. We're going to start. I just can't even believe you said that. 2026.
Yeah, pretty
Wow.
wild, huh?
You know what that means? We're in
This
an election year.
election year, and this is the year that I turned 70 years old. I mean, it's crazy.
Oh boy.
I mean, this is the kind of stuff I thought of back in the 80s going, yeah, shit, that's so far away. It'll never get here. It's fun.
Someday.
Now it's here, and now we've got to deal with a president that's making time go extremely slow. And yeah,
So we have a good show for you. We're going to talk about the new year here and grounded. And at the end of the show, Senator, I'll give you a hint here. I'm going to ask you kind of your goals for this year. We don't have to call them resolutions, but your goals and maybe some like dream guests to have on the show. Okay.
oh, really? Jeez, I got
So
to think
think about
about
that. I think I know who you'll say, but we'll get there. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday celebration, a wonderful New Year. I want to say hi to Robert, who says he's missed us. We've missed you too. It feels weird. Like I think this is the longest stretch we've gone without a show.
it.
But today we are going to kick off our first show of 2026. Hard to believe we're coming up on a year of Grounded, which is just crazy. And it's a former coworker of mine who's joining us, Zach Toombs. So he is the director and the founder of a newish nonprofit news organization called Evident Media. We're going to chat about all kinds of things with him about their work, their excellent investigations that they've done, and just the state of the media today. After our last episode, Senator, was that huge fallout over 60 Minutes and CBS pulling that story about CCOT in El Salvador, which
Yeah.
was then leaked by Canadian television, basically not leaked, but played by Canadian television.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot to talk about with the state of journalism.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we don't have to redo all that again, but the truth is that some of our Main Street journalism that I depended on when I was a kid and an adult both simply are pulling back because, in my opinion, because they want to merge, they want to get bigger, and the federal government plays a role in that, and they don't want to say anything bad that might stop the merger, and that's not what the press is about. And I think most of the people in the press know that's not what the press is about. But anytime you start taking orders from folks in government that tell you we don't want to be held accountable by the press, that is a problem. And so,
Yeah.
the folks like Zach Toombs and their media firms, and there's a lot of them out there that are doing this kind of stuff. I think are critically important to be people informed about what's going on in the world and what's going on with their government.
Yeah, absolutely. Journalism is so important, and it's called the fourth estate for a reason. We're going to get into all of that and kind of the role that independent media is playing. They're really like stepping up into this void here that we're seeing. So excited to chat with him. But let's go through some headlines, huh? You want to do it?
All right, rock and roll.
All right, we'll start with like the latest news. I haven't seen anything major this morning, although there were some unfortunate, devastating Russian strikes in Ukraine. That's kind of the latest international news. But Zohran Mamdani, sworn in just after midnight in New York City, the first Muslim mayor of New York City, and President Trump's BFF, apparently, after that meeting.
Yeah, he got sworn in at midnight, so it'll be good. It'll be good to see what he does as far as the campaign promises that were made, and see if he can figure out how to pay for some of this stuff that, quite frankly, what he wants to do isn't bad stuff. It's actually quite good. It's just how do you pay for it?
Yeah. So
always a challenge.
A lot of people watching that, and I read he was the first New York City mayor to be sworn in on the Quran and not the Bible. So that's history too. Meanwhile, the president says that he's withdrawing National Guard troops from Chicago, LA, and Portland. But then he kind of issued a warning that went along with that, said he could send other federal forces in a much different and stronger form.
Yeah, well, I mean, as we've talked about before, I think whether you're talking about working in a bipartisan way in Congress or you're working with local government or county government or state governments, it's always good to work with them and not drive stuff down their throats from Washington, D.C. And what we're seeing in a lot of these cases is the local places are not asking for it. The federal government saying, I can do anything I want and I'm going to do whatever I want. And that in a place like Montana, where I live and you live, typically doesn't go over very well. Unfortunately, we don't see many of the people from Congress standing up for municipal or states' rights anymore. They just kind of let them do what they want to do. I'm talking about the administration, and that's not what the forefathers had in mind. But look, I think he was directed by a federal judge to do this, correct?
Yeah, so, well, this was after a court order, yeah.
Right, so after... Yeah, I was directed by court order. So after he pulls them out, is it a different court order that they have to file to if federal forces come in a different form? I don't know, but it's the same effect either way. And I would say instead of cutting programs that creates more police officers and teaches people how to be law enforcement people, which is what was done right out of the chute last spring. And replacing them with folks who are in our military that have a totally different job description. Why not go back and reestablish the programs that were out there that make our police safer and educates them on what needs to be done and educates new people to go into the professional, because it is an honorable profession, and do it right instead of using our military to be police officers, which isn't what they're set up to do.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. I have a feeling we're not done with that. As you know, there's always another avenue in the courts. Okay, so in a New Year's Eve surprise yesterday, the House Judiciary Committee released a transcript and a video of its 8-hour hearing with former special counsel Jack Smith. So this was a closed-door hearing when it happened. Lawmakers grilled Smith about 2 criminal investigations that he oversaw against Donald Trump. Of course, the classified documents case, when we saw all those boxes piled up in the Mar-a-Lago bathroom, and then his role in trying to overturn the 2020 election results. So the Judiciary Committee is now investigating Jack Smith. One thing that stood out to me here, kind of going through the headlines over this video that was released in the transcript, is that Jack Smith said he was willing to testify in a public setting. The committee chair, Jim Jordan, said, no, we're not going to do that. Smith also told lawmakers that his team found proof beyond a reasonable doubt that Trump engaged in a criminal scheme to overturn the results of the 2020 election. And then one last thing, Smith told the committee that Rudy Giuliani didn't actually believe the claims about voter fraud and said that they were mistakes or hyperbole.
Yeah, so I haven't seen the video. You seen the video?
I haven't watched the whole. It's 8 hours. I haven't watched the whole video, but
it's the entire hearing. The entire hearing they have with Jack Smith. They released a video on it. It's not snippets. It's not parts. It's the whole
and
thing.
the transcript and the transcript.
But the whole thing. They didn't pick and choose. They didn't. They just show certain things. They showed the whole damn thing. Is that right?
As far as I know, you're
But if they did
putting
that,
me on the spot.
No. If they did that, that's a good thing. If they redacted some of it, and where have we heard this before? If they redacted some of it or just took certain things and didn't keep them in context, that's not a good thing, because you're exactly right. Jack Smith said, open the hearing up, turn on the camera, and we'll have a hearing. And why they didn't do that from the get-go, especially if they released the entire hearing in its entirety, without any cuts, without any redactions, why didn't they just do it from the beginning?
Okay. Yeah, why not just make it public?
Why not
I know the entire transcript was released.
Transparency they need.
Yeah, the transcript was 255 pages, but as far as I saw, it was the entire video, because they said it was 8 hours.
If it's the entire video, then kudos to the House Judiciary Committee, which is controlled by Republicans. Kudos to them for doing that. That's the right thing to do. What it been a righter thing to do would have been just have the hearing televised live as it was going on. It would have increased the transparency and the believability. Now, if in fact they redacted some of the information, if they cut snippets out and released that but not other things, that's bullshit. Okay.
Okay, I like it. You tell us straight. Well, maybe our guest Zach Toombs has a better answer, because I was not prepared for you to ask me that. So
sorry.
You got me.
Yeah,
look at you. You're becoming a real journalist. You got me.
No, you got me, because the truth is, I didn't know they released the documents to begin with. I wasn't aware of it until I got this thing from Maritza rhymes with Pizza Giorgio.
All right, cool. All right, 2 more things I want to go over. The president vetoed a bill that would have funded a clean water project in Colorado. So he said this was about costs. But we're seeing another Trump ally speak out against this decision, breaking with the president. I'm curious to see what happens next. This project is in Representative Lauren Boebert's district in Colorado. And here's what she had to say. Quote, President Trump decided to veto a completely non-controversial bipartisan bill that passed both the House and Senate unanimously. If this administration wants to make its legacy blocking projects that deliver water to rural Americans, that's on them. And there are rumblings about this being more about Boebert's push to release the Epstein files than the actual project. What do you think?
I think, as my Native American friends will tell you, water is life, and water is life. It's the most valuable resource we have, drinking water, potable water. And I think that for a president who gave $40 billion to Argentina and didn't even bat an eye about it, to say, we're not going to invest in this country, it speaks a lot about the president. That's it. For whatever reasons. I mean, if he's doing it because Boebert wants to release the Epstein files and that's why he's doing it, I think that's stupid. If he's doing it because he doesn't like rural America, I think that's unfortunately stupid. But the bottom line is, here's the big one. The House passed it. The Senate passed it. If he had a problem with it, he should have got them to pull it out before they passed it, or stop the bill. I assume it was a standalone, but maybe it was in an appropriation.
Which he's been able to do on all kinds of things, by the way. He has a lot of power.
Yeah, a lot. And Congress hasn't stepped up and said, no, you can't do that. So he's been able to do any damn thing he wants. And he's done this. I think it's unfortunate, because water in rural America is a tough commodity. They're drilling lines right here within 1.5 miles of my place, laying a water project that was built relaying a water project that was built in about 1980. That, quite frankly, wasn't particularly good when they put it in the ground. And the federal government is paying to replace that project through a water compact with the Rocky Boy Indian Reservation. So it's pretty crazy that he said no to this. My guess is there's a lot of parts of Colorado that are pretty damn dry. And like I said, water is life. Without water, you can't have economic growth. Without water, you can't live there, period. And so It's pretty important, and it's unfortunate if he's once again doing this for political reasons. Why not just release the Epstein files, Mr. President, in their entirety without all the redactions and get on with it? I'm not hearing any of the victims saying you need to redact this or you need to redact that. They just want to become clean.
We've both been kind of on vacation, but I finally did read the New York Times piece about Marjorie Taylor Greene. Did you read that? Did you see
Nope,
parts of that?
I didn't.
So, there's a lot in there. There's a lot in there. It's a fascinating article. And Marjorie Taylor Greene talked to this reporter in the New York Times about how the president basically told her, listen, my friends are going to get hurt if we do this. And when she asked about having some of the survivors to the White House, he basically said something along the lines like they haven't earned that, or they don't have the merit to do that. So there's a lot still here. It's a new year. We've been on vacation. It's been a holiday, but the Epstein stuff is not going away. And I did read that there are like multiple millions of more documents and files that are now being gone through by the Justice Department. So we are just only beginning to talk about that story.
Yeah, I mean, and look, the Justice Department is short a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people. They've had so many of their staff terminated or asked to leave, and they've said, "Yeah, we want to be a part of this show," and they have. And now, with a million more documents, I can't help but think that they're not busy redacting everything that has any reference to those friends that President Trump talked about, including himself.
We'll see what happens. All right, my last headline for you. I mean, we could talk about the Kennedys, but we will get to our guest. But my last headline to you is something that you and I have worked on a lot, which is the United States Postal Service, issues dealing with United States Postal Service. And there's some new, I'll call it shit happening that you need to be aware of, especially if you live in rural America. So there's a new rule that went into effect last week. And this basically changes what is considered to be a postmark, right? So it used to be the postmarks indicated when USPS took possession of mail, and they would stamp it, and that's when it was in their hands. And the postmarks are used for deadlines for all kinds of things, whether we're talking about taxes or bills or mail-in ballots in some states. So now this new rule says that it's the postmark is whenever that piece of mail is actually put through a machine and processed at a regional processing facility, not when it's dropped off, not when the USPS takes custody of it. So this is a huge deal for rural America because it could be days between when you drop off your mail and when it's actually postmarked. And if you live in a state that accepts mail-in ballots, as long as they're postmarked by the deadline, well, guess what? If those ballots aren't scanned at the regional facility on time, they're not going to make it.
Yeah, and the point is this: I don't understand this. If it's done because the Postal Service wants to drive all their business to UPS and FedEx, that's fine, because that's exactly what's going to happen. It's exactly what's going to happen. But here's what I don't get. If it's done to screw with people who vote by mail, the people he's really screwing with are the people in rural America. Because I can't even tell you where my regional facility is, but I can say it's probably hundreds and hundreds of miles away. And so you're talking a minimum of probably 3-4 days before it gets postmarked. Maybe less than that. I don't know. But the truth is, it could easily be that long. And these are folks that typically vote Republican. Now, I will also say that maybe the president understands that the tariff stuff that he's doing and the stuff he's doing in healthcare really disproportionately impacts rural America, and he might figure these folks aren't going to vote for him anymore, which I think is a fair thing to think right now. But it doesn't make much sense to me, unless, in fact, you're just trying to destroy the Postal Service.
Well, we will see. This was all part of Postmaster General Louis DeJoy's plan to save costs that he rolled out a few years ago.
If you really want to save costs, just quit delivering mail, period. I mean, really, this is bullshit. It's a total bullshit. And it's not a direction this country needs to be going. With everything that's being delivered by the mail these days, this is the wrong direction. Wrong direction.
Okay, one question from our viewers here. Robert wants to know, have any of the farm subsidies shown up yet for you?
Not out of the $12 billion. I haven't seen anything.
Any communication? Tell us, give us a behind the curtains look.
I haven't gotten communication. So they started just direct depositing checks here earlier this year. Maybe they were doing it for other people, but for me, I used to get them in the mail. Now they direct deposit, which is fine. That's fine. And so usually when I find about the payments, it's through a direct deposit or an email that says direct deposited.
Okay. Well, you'll keep us updated. All right. That's all we have for headlines. And unless there's anything you wanted to talk about that I missed, there's so much that happened over the last
we could talk about the weather in Hawaii. There's no sense in doing that. You know?
Yeah, I don't want to make you feel bad. It's pretty nice.
55 degrees when we got off the airplane in Bozeman and we drove back home. It was 55 degrees between Great Falls and here.
Now, crazy. I like warm weather, but that is not how it should be.
No, we can just hope that the thermometer on my pickup was not accurate. That's the only thing we can hope, but usually it's pretty accurate.
Okay, well, we are going to pivot now to bring in our guests. So let's bring him in. We have Zach Toombs joining us. Hi, Zach. Zach is the executive director of Evident Media. He, like I said, worked with me at Scripps News and just an incredible journalist. So I just want to start, Zach. Or wait, Senator Tester has something to say. What do you have to say?
No, you keep going, man. I got stuff. We got questions to ask. We do.
I'm ready.
Man, we're tough. We are.
I'm prepared.
Yeah, this is
Thanks
really
for having me
on. So we just want to start so you launched Evident Media in February. Okay, that's when Grounded launched. So how did this all come to be? Because we got laid off at the same time. I started a podcast. You started a nonprofit media outlet. Tell me how you did that in such a short amount of time and where kind of the catalyst was for you.
Yeah, we moved fast. I mean, I was lucky to work with a great team and still working with a great team of journalists from Scripps, from PBS, from Vice, journalists who saw this opportunity for an independent nonprofit news organization that could step into a gap, because we really felt and still feel that there's a great demand and appetite out there from viewers for really in-depth visual reporting through documentaries, through visual investigations, and to do that in a nonprofit landscape at a time when I think we really need more nonprofit media and public media. And I know we're going to talk about that. So we wanted to move quickly to put something out there and to launch this new organization. And we launched in early 2025. As you said, it's hard to believe it's been 10 months now, I suppose, and we're wrapping up our first year, and it's been a big year. We worked with PBS. We just released a big documentary with PBS Frontline, The Washington Post, and Bellingcat about the Iran nuclear program. We've done a lot of reporting this year on ICE and Border Patrol and mass deportation. We've worked with Cal Matters, a nonprofit newsroom in California, with the 51st in DC. And so we do a lot of partnerships with other nonprofit news outlets, but what we bring to the table is visual journalism that's in depth and that shows viewers the process and shows them, how we know what we know. We don't just report, here's what we know. We try to show them, here is our journey to uncover this, so we can bring people along on that journey of discovery, as we call it. So that's what we're doing at Evident, and we're excited for year 2 beginning today.
So can I ask, because I don't know the nonprofit versus profit business model as well as I probably should, but how do you make enough money to pay yourself? Where's that money come from?
Yeah, so we have the unique ability as a nonprofit news organization that's producing documentaries to license the documentaries, and so that's a pretty traditional business model that that is done by for-profit and nonprofit entities. The difference for us is that we have no shareholders and we have no corporate ownership. I don't own the organization. I run the organization along with my partner, and we report to a board, to the nonprofit board. And any profit that's generated in a nonprofit news organization just goes right back into the business. It's reinvested into the journalism and into the staff. So we license documentaries. That was a big source of revenue for us this year. We have a membership program we have a Substack. We're on Substack. We're obviously co-hosting the stream currently, so people can find us there. And so that's one way that we're supported. And other than that, it's, occasionally there's a partnership where a partner organization has a budget to produce visual journalism, and we'll tap into that. So yeah, a lot of different ways, like all of the above.
Is it everything you do? Is it all video?
Yes, we're a video. We say we're a video first newsroom, but really we're like a video only newsroom. It's all video. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So you've already done some incredible work, and there's a story called, it was about this operation called Return to Sender, and it tracks this specific Border Patrol operation. It led to 78 people arrested. So I want to play part of that really quickly for our audience here.
And Border Protection claim authority to search vehicles and vessels without a warrant within a reasonable distance from any external boundary of the U.S., including the entire coastline. The federal government defines this reasonable distance as 100 miles. That means that roughly 2/3 of the U.S. population, about 200 million people, live within this zone where Border Patrol claims a right to search and raid without a warrant.
Our area goes up through Central California all the way to the Oregon border. So anywhere in that area, we're going to go where that threat is and where we can do the most damage to bad people and bad things that we possibly can.
Okay, so that was just a snippet. There's a whole lot more in that story, but that hit on something that I remember when that first came out, that whole idea of them having jurisdiction over our entire border within 100 miles. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it didn't get more attention. That in 2/3 of the country, Border Patrol can do searches without a warrant. So I guess when I'm thinking about that story, my first question is, how did you get so much access here? Because you guys had a lot of access with Border Patrol as far as interviews and just conversations.
So what's really interesting about that project is that it focused on a Border Patrol raid that was carried out in January, actually before Trump was sworn in for his second term. And so, and that person who we just saw speaking, some folks might recognize him. That's Greg Bavino, who has become like the face of the, street level enforcement of mass deportation for the administration. And the raid that he was the architect of in Bakersfield, California, really became the prototype, like the model for how these raids, these sweeping like dragnet raids would be carried out across the country. And you mentioned they picked up 78 people, and 77 of them had no criminal record. And actually, not only did they not have a criminal record, but Border Patrol did not know who they were when they were picked up. And that was a document that literally was just given to us by DHS. Our partners at Cal Matters reached out to someone at DHS and requested the document rather than going through the whole FOIA process, which you all know takes a lot of time. And it was just provided, which is wild. We were surprised. As for the on the ground access, I think Greg Bavino was eager to show off what he had done. Like, I don't think he wanted to hide anything. And I think that he was happy to have the attention. And I think in many ways, the attention that he got from us and from others around that raid, obviously led to him being elevated within the administration and being put in Chicago and New Orleans and Charlotte, North Carolina. So yeah, I think he was eager to show off what he had done. So that piece, that documentary called Operation Return to Sender, which was named after the Border Patrol operation. It came out in March. It was March or April. It was one of our first projects, and it covered a raid that happened at the very beginning of the year. And the other thing that you honed in on, I'm really glad you mentioned this. The note about, you know, what the actual jurisdiction is for Border Patrol.
Right.
We almost didn't include that detail in the documentary because we were kind of on the fence about, like, is this too fear-mongering for us to mention that, oh, they could technically operate within this whole swath, because that really had not been done. And ultimately we decided to include it because Bovino was talking about that. And then, you know, sure enough, in the weeks and months that followed, they took full advantage of the fact that technically they could operate in these spaces, and Border Patrol can go out and patrol the streets of Chicago and all these other areas where historically we haven't seen Border Patrol operating, or we haven't been thinking about Border Patrol operating.
How do people find Return to Sender to be able to watch it?
It's on YouTube. Everything we do is all the big projects we do and documentaries that we release are all publicly available for free. We don't we try to keep everything out there, freely accessible. So Evident Media is our YouTube channel, and people can find it there.
Cool.
And I'll put a link in our Substack too. There was one other part of this, and I know Senator Tester will have a follow-up question here, or maybe just a joint question with me on this. The team went further and caught Border Patrol in a lie, because Border Patrol said they were not targeting laborers. They were not going in the fields. Like you said, 77 of those people that they arrested, those people weren't even on their radar or targets. So it's proven that there's video, right? You have all this social media video, all these videos that people have taken on their smartphones, which is, an advantage to reporting like this. So it shows that they've lied. Who's going to do anything about that?
Great question. I think, our mentality about our journalism is that our goal is to shed light on what's happening and put it out there and publicize it and amplify it and get it seen and heard. And, we stop short of what you would call like a call to action, because we are journalists and we're not advocates. But yeah, I mean, we caught them in this lie, and that's what it was. And we can call it that because they were very clear and they mischaracterized, the raid and their operations and their intent. And that was revealed through what we call open source reporting, and also just good old fashioned on the ground journalism. Open source reporting, it uses open source tools, analyzes things like satellite imagery and social media posts and videos. And of course, we can't trust what we see on the internet, and no one should trust something just from like a little snippet of a video they see from some stranger posted online. But what you can do through this reporting process, and anybody can really do this, is verify that something posted to social media is the real deal. And you can do that a few different ways. The first step for us is generally what we call geolocation, which is just a fancy word for saying we try to figure out where something happened, and we try to compare a video that's posted on social media, look at the setting and the backdrop, and compare that to satellite imagery and see if we can place that video in a specific spot in the real world, and then try to find other videos that might verify, that might show us another angle of an incident, or maybe something that happened shortly after the original video was recorded. And often in our reporting, if we can't find an incident that's documented from multiple people and multiple angles, we're throwing it out. We did that with reporting we did in DC around the targeting of moped drivers, where there was like a lot of cell phones around recording everything. We could generally find everything from multiple angles. And then the other important layer is just, again, old-fashioned reporting, which means we take the step of reaching out to law enforcement, both locally and federal agencies, and just ask them, can you confirm this happened? And again, generally, like, they're not hiding anything. They're especially when we can present them with evidence to say we have found all these videos that show this trend, that they were on this farmland and they said they weren't, for example. We can confirm that with the agencies and get them on record about that. And then, of course, where we can, we go on the ground and we talk to people. And we did that in this case that you're mentioning. We actually, with our partners at Cal Matters, went to the farmland and spoke to the farm workers, and we had their testimony. We had the social video. We talked to the owners of the land. So we had a lot of different points of verification. And I should shout out our partners at Bellingcat as well, who Maritza, when we were at Scripps, we did some work with Bellingcat, and Evident is doing a lot of work with Bellingcat. And for folks who don't know them, they do this really innovative open source investigative reporting better than anybody. And so we're lucky to have them as partners on all of this mass deportation reporting.
So it occurred to me when I was watching some of the videos that you had produced, that somebody in public office ought to have reason to do some follow-up. So has any of the offices from anybody in Congress gotten a hold of anybody in your organization and said, so, try to determine the validity of the reporting to maybe end up with maybe something that is very seldom done in Congress for the last year, and that's maybe have a hearing and have some accountability?
We've not been reached out to. We would happily take part in that kind of conversation and talk about this reporting on a more public stage and in that kind of setting. I mean, I think it's really important. And as I mentioned, there are a lot of steps that go into this beyond sort of the traditional interviews and on the ground reporting. So there's a lot of documentation happening that I think would make that kind of conversation really valuable. And there's a lot that we could bring to the table for that kind of hearing. So it's a great idea and a great point.
That's a question for you, Senator. I mean, is that something that would happen in your office? Somebody would say, look at this reporting, and you'd say, I need to know more about that?
Absolutely. I have somebody, and by the way, incredibly talented people that work in those offices that monitor this kind of stuff much better than the member does, and would probably bring it to me or my chief and say, this is what we found. And the chief would either nix it or the member would nix it, or say, get after it, go find out what's going on here, find out if there's legitimacy to these videos. And then that would be followed by putting pressure on the chairman of the respective committee to have the people from the agency, and in all effort, the people like Zach to come in and testify in front of the committee and ask them questions and find out what's going on and find out, look, if the 100 air miles, I might add, this 100 air miles, fully 1/4 of the state of Montana is now controlled by Customs and Border Protection and ICE. This is crazy. And what's their definition of a threat? Did they ever get into that? Is it anything they determined to be a threat? Could it be a speeding ticket, for God's sakes? I mean, what the hell?
Yeah, it's warrantless search, right? And so that's what they're saying they can do within this zone. It is really concerning, and it's not something that enough people are talking about.
Earlier in my life, like 30 years ago, I had a representative from the state walk in and think that he could go anywhere on this place that he wanted to. And I was more than willing to let him do it, but he was kind of a jerk when he came on the place and started making demands. And I said, get the hell out of here.
Wait, you mean your farm?
Yes. I said, get the hell out of here and come back when you got a warrant. And he never came back. But the truth is under our old legal system, that's you can't do that kind of shit. You can't just walk into somebody's house in Hingham, Montana, which is within 100 miles of the border, and say, I want to see what I want to see, and you have no control over stopping me doing anything I want. That's total bullshit, and bullshit isn't even the right word to be used there. It's unbelievable. And this kind of crap came up, by the way, when I was in the Senate, and we nixed the whole thing, that they would have control of 100 miles of the border. We stopped the whole thing on a whole standard that if you believed in freedom and privacy, this is not something you could endorse, period. I don't care under what grounds you're making the claim. It's crazy.
Okay, so Zach, Senator, I think that's the thing that, our very first episode, I think we talked about this shock and awe campaign, right? And flood the zone, and that's an intentional thing. And this is a huge deal. this is a huge deal, but it's not being talked about because there are so many huge deals that take up the oxygen. But Zach, I do want to talk about one of your other projects. You partnered with Frontline about the strikes on Iran's nuclear program. I'm having some technical difficulties playing the little snippet from that. But tell me about how that came to be. I mean, how do you decide the topics here?
Well, in 2024, I was fortunate to work with a couple of journalists, Sebastian Walker and Adam Desiderio, who for a long time had done great reporting, international conflict reporting at Vice. And we did a documentary together that was published on Scripps called A Hidden War. And that focused on Israel and Gaza and the West Bank. And it combined on the ground reporting with the open source reporting, especially satellite imagery analysis. And that was done in partnership with Bellingcat as well. And anyway, so the way this latest project came about is that duo, Sebastian and Adam, had this idea and had some idea of how to get access to go into Iran and do some reporting that might shed some light on what was the real impact of the US strikes on the Iranian nuclear program and Israel's strikes on Iranian scientists. And so this project called Strike on Iran, the Nuclear Question, it premiered on PBS Frontline in December this past month. And it's a full hour-long documentary, super in-depth. And we had this great super team of news outlets around it: PBS Frontline, The Washington Post, Bellingcat, and Evident. And it combined, just as that other documentary did, it combined rare on-the-ground access with open source reporting, especially satellite imagery analysis. And that's a really powerful combo because we can have a team on the ground, going to the site of an apartment building that was, blown up because an Iranian scientist was living there, and they can take photos on the ground and look at the sort of ground level impact and aftermath. And then we can take a look at satellite imagery and kind of piece together a bigger picture pattern. We can look at videos that were posted to social media and security footage from surrounding buildings, and we can piece together a timeline of the attacks on the Iranian scientist over the course of like a few hours, which is one part of the documentary. And then, specifically around the nuclear facilities, you can see a lot through satellite imagery that you could never see with on-the-ground journalism because Iran's government doesn't let journalists anywhere near those facilities. Right. And you can see within the documentary, all credit to the field crew for getting as much access as they possibly could in a very difficult environment. But ultimately, they were running up against limitations. And there's like a scene, a couple different parts of the documentary where you can see the correspondent Sebastian pushing for access. Could we get over there to film the nuclear facility from this sort of vantage point? Could we get this close to it? And they're putting a lot of limits around them. And again, the great thing about the satellite imagery analysis is that we can fill in some of the gaps that is left. That are left from the restrictions of the on-the-ground reporting. So actually in that documentary, we have a whole section where we lay out how we can see new construction at the Pickaxe Mountain site, one of Iran's nuclear facilities, new construction and new tunnels being built and things like that implies some new activity and recovery. And that was just one of several findings that came out of that documentary.
Just recently on mainstream media, they were talking about the fact that they did not believe that Iran was doing anything to recover any of the nuclear material that had been hit. But they were working on, this just happened the other day, in fact, maybe even yesterday, but they were working on their missile program. Did you guys see any of that stuff, or did you get any sign that they were recovering nuclear material, or is that, I haven't seen the story, so maybe it's in the story, I don't know.
No, we don't get into there was uranium that essentially went missing, or at least for everyone but the Iranian government, we don't know where it went. And that's about where we had to leave it in the doc. But what we did get into is just the new construction and the new activity at one of these sites, which is notable. And the Washington Post, I should mention, really like spearheaded that reporting. They have an excellent visual forensics team that really did a lot of great reporting around this, and all of that is visualized and laid out in the documentary.
How do you guys get okay to do this in a place like Iran? I mean, who? I'm amazed, because it'd be like North Korea coming in here and doing a story. I'm not sure they'd get access to much.
Iran does, and Iran's government has a history of allowing reporters, American reporters or Western reporters, in very limited circumstances, but they're people are very carefully watched. They have handlers with them. They have government minders with them, watching them and taking them to specific places. So it's very, very controlled when folks are on the ground. And I haven't been personally on the ground doing reporting in Iran, but that's what our team experienced. And I think, most reporters who go in, from most US reporters or Western reporters who go in, I think would have the same experience.
So Zach, let's just talk about, those are a few of the projects you've been working on at Evident with partners. So after what we've seen this year with corporate media, most recently we just talked about it, this whole 60 Minutes thing with CBS. Mm-hmm. Is independent journalism going to be the thing that saves us, that saves journalism, that saves this institution?
I think that independent journalism and nonprofit journalism and public media it's essential. It's essential to a functioning democracy. Because when you think, just as an example, when you think about the news organizations that have done great original reporting that really meaningfully challenges this administration, who do we think of? The Associated Press, ProPublica, PBS, of course, the New York Times, they're for profit, but they're the New York Times and they're always great. But these other organizations like the AP, ProPublica, PBS, all of them have done really aggressive, meaningful journalism that held the administration, that shed light on the administration in places that the administration didn't want attention. And all those organizations were attacked. PBS in a really significant way because of the federal funding cuts. But the difference there that I think sets these organizations apart and gives them an ability to really stand up for their journalism against the administration, or holding the administration accountable, is that they're nonprofits. They're nonprofits and they're public media. And the executive editor of the Associated Press, I think, put it really, really well. And this is something I think about a lot. She said, the AP has no corporate owner and no shareholders. If we don't step up to defend Americans' right to speak freely, who will? Today, the US government wants to control the AP's speech. Tomorrow, it could be someone else's. I think about that all the time. Nonprofit media, as I mentioned at the top, and as the AP leadership here mentioned, we don't have shareholders. We don't have corporate ownership. We don't have to worry about the US government approving, our next corporate merger or, corporate maneuvering that the FCC is able to weigh in on. And so at a time when the FCC is going to be weaponized and politicized, that is just going to create vulnerability for corporate media that you're not going to see with nonprofits and public media. And there are other ways that they can attack nonprofits, just to be clear. They can go after your nonprofit status, but there's a whole infrastructure. That's what I think about. I think about when we built Evident Media, we weren't really just building a news organization. We were trying to help build out new infrastructure to support this kind of journalism. And that's what places like ProPublica and AP and PBS provide as well. It's a different kind of infrastructure, separate from corporate media, separate from corporate incentives that have to put shareholders first. This is a different infrastructure that can put the public interest first in a different way.
This has been going on for 20 years. The fact is that my niece, who will turn 50 this year, when she was 35 years old, I guess it was, she came in and says, where do we get our news that we can actually depend upon it being accurate? And that's a tough question that quite frankly could probably be much easier answered than I answered that evening. by just saying the nonprofit world.
Yeah, and for the record, I mean, there's a lot of incredible journalism that happens in the for-profit space also. So I don't want to knock that at all.
No,
I mean,
I got it.
there are great journalists that are doing
everywhere
work all across the industry. I think but unfortunately, as we've seen with CBS and 60 Minutes, you can have great journalists doing great journalism, but if the infrastructure is vulnerable to government pressure and they can like turn the screws on the corporate owners, there's not much that the frontline, rank and file journalists can do. They can try to get their work out there in a different way, which in the case of the 60 Minutes piece, thankfully, like we did see it.
we saw it.
But yeah, it's the corporate media infrastructure, I think, is uniquely vulnerable to the types of attacks that are coming from the current administration.
And I think it's important to note, I've had this conversation with a lot of people because, I think about certain ownership groups that people don't like. Sinclair is one of them, right? And so people will say, well, how can you work for them? How can you go work for them? And I do think it's important for people to understand, especially with broadcast journalists, a lot of the people at these networks and these companies are under contract. And it's not so easy to just say, oh, well, you made this decision, I'm out, because they could go after you. And some of these companies threaten that very much. Yeah, you can be upset with a company, but don't blame the journalists. That's the hard part of this. That's the really hard part of this, is there are really good journalists working at all of these, in all of these outlets.
Yeah, and I'm glad that, quite frankly, Zach, you corrected me and pointed out the fact that, because I mean this, the fact that there is a lot of good work being done.
But I appreciate you pointing people toward nonprofit journalism, because I'm a big believer in all that. And generally, the outlets that we work with are nonprofits. I mean, they're mission aligned, as you would say.
Yeah.
So what's next for Evident? Do you have any big projects in the can, or do you need a show hosted by a farmer and a washed up broadcaster?
Let's figure one out. I mean, that sounds, no, come on. I'd love to work with you guys, seriously. And I'd love to have these conversations more.
We need to get you to do one on healthcare in rural America, because I think we have not seen the wrath of what happened in that big, beautiful bill. It will be coming over the next few years. And
we are doing some reporting with our partners at Cal Matters on healthcare, and some of that touches on hospital closures and these gaps, these deserts. So that's one project. But yeah, we'll continue to report on mass deportation. We've got a bit of reporting on healthcare coming up. Got a lot of ideas and a lot of things that are in development. So I think it's going to be a big year for us. I mean, I think 2025, a lot of that for Evident was really about getting our footing and figuring out where we would fit into this nonprofit media landscape, and also just developing a proof of concept. Like, Maritza probably remembers, we did a show. I worked on a show called In Real Life for several years, and those were all like TV half-hour, 22-minute documentaries. And I think coming into Evident, I was thinking, oh, we could do more of that. We should just continue that format. But honestly, in a YouTube space and on social media, there are other formats that actually are that play better and that are more valuable, I think. And so we've continued to sort of test out different ways of telling in-depth visual journalism stories. So I think now that we've figured out, these are the sort of core products that we have that we can offer to viewers, I think 2026 is all about just turning up the volume in terms of the consistency of reporting and new projects coming out and reaching more people, hopefully.
I think, and I would just tell you that all that is really, really important, but being able to reach more people is really, really important. I think that it's why I asked. I'm not exactly the most tech person in the world, as Maritza will tell you, but where do people go to find this? Some people don't spend their life on a computer. Some people are just, they're looking at ways that they need to find information. That's also why I asked you if it's all video, or if there's some written stuff too, because I think it's all the above. I mean, if you can get some of this information not only on TV, but in the written word and even on radio, it can make a big difference.
Definitely. A lot of people aren't even seeking out the news these days. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of people, they are so
burned out.
Yeah, burned out that they're not seeking it out. And I think that's really unfortunate, but I can understand it, and so a big part of what we do is, and what we think about every day and with every story is like, how do we reach people who aren't looking for this? Like the
Yes.
Operation Return to Sender project that we were talking about at the beginning of the conversation. More people, we produced like a 90-second clip that was packaged for Instagram Reels, and it was shared by like a meme page in Central California. And it was seen by more people than the full documentary was, that clip. And I kind of loved that because like it was shared by this meme page, people who are like looking for sort of local funny content. And so it reached all these people who were directly impacted by the reporting, who definitely would not have seen it because they wouldn't have been seeking it out on YouTube or any of our platforms. So yeah, we're thinking about that with every project. It's just like, how do we package this, and how do we work with distribution partners, including like comedians and meme pages and things like that, to get it in front of different audiences who aren't necessarily looking for news.
Well, it's just so oversaturated. And I think that is something, when people ask, like, how do we save this? How do we get information out there? People are fatigued. I think that it's really important to share things. When you read a story or you watch a story that's impactful, that matters, that you think other people should see, share it with, not just on social media, but send it directly to people. I think that goes a long way, and having those one-on-one conversations about why the story is important to you.
Definitely.
It's good.
All right.
Zach, thanks for taking time out of doing your investigative reporter to let us do some investigation on you.
My pleasure. You can investigate me anytime. No, I really enjoyed speaking with you all, and congratulations on building what you've built in 2025. I mean, it's awesome that you've created this space for important conversations, and you've built a great dedicated following. It's all really impressive, and it gives hope to the rest of us in the independent media space.
Oh, thank you. And make sure, go check out Evident Media. Really incredible work there. I love, like you talked about this, but you don't just report on it, you bring the receipts. And I think that's so important for people to see journalists connecting the dots and bringing them along the journey. I love that. Thank you so much, Zach Toombs, Evident Media. Check their stuff out, and Happy New Year. Thanks for joining us on this holiday.
Happy New Year. Thanks,
Have a good one, Zach. Thank you.
Okay, man, there's just so much good work going on, and it is a matter of getting it into people's hands.
I don't know how a guy like him ever got laid off in scripts. You know what I mean? So competent, so good, so just a cool
professional.
Looks good, talks good. What can I say? But it's now. I just think access to good information is really important, especially information that you don't have to spend your life watching. It gets to the point, tells you what's going on, and you can trust it. I mean, that's what's really important.
That's why you should see the text messages between us, because I'm constantly sending Senator Tester just screen grabs, this article, because it's too much to consume. It's way too much to consume. It's hard, and it's draining, but it's all important. So it's a good conversation.
That's also their goal, is to put so much shit out there you don't know which turd to pick up. That's a fact. So yeah,
you have a way with words. Okay, I want to talk about New Year's, but first I need to say a thank you, because you received a gift in the mail.
I did.
Do you have those with you? Did you bring them down to your office?
So, and I'm gonna give you yours, and then I'm gonna wear mine, and you can wear yours at the same time. We'll rehearse it a little bit.
Okay, so we'll save that maybe.
And it just occurred to me that when I got them, because we've been gone for the last 10 days or so, and when I got them, I opened them up, and I'm not absolutely 100% positive they're from Heather Cox Richardson, but I'm pretty sure they're from Heather Cox. Right?
Well, let's clue our viewers in. Senator Tester received a package with 2 hats, and it said Heather Cox Richardson.
It was a shipping statement from this company that makes hats, and I'm pretty sure they're from Heather Cox Richardson. But we're going to find that out before we both wear them.
Okay, well, whoever sent us the hats, I believe it was HCR. I believe it was Heather Cox Richardson. We want to just say thank you. That was a lovely surprise, a lovely message to wake up to. So we'll get to your hat, but do you have any final thoughts as we say goodbye to 2025? A lot of people are ready to put that behind us, close the door on 2025. And then as we look ahead to this year, 2026, first day of a new year, the sun is shining where I am. And I'm wondering what your goals are. We won't call them resolutions, but do you have any goals? And specifically, do you have any goals for Grounded? Like, is there one guest that you would love to see on Grounded this year? And for the audience, you can tune in too.
Yeah, well, actually, the person that I'm really looking forward to that we've hopefully have scheduled and that's in stone is Bill Clinton. I think Bill Clinton is going to be a really, really fun interview for me because he's a guy that I think understands rural America pretty well, and he's got nothing. I mean, nothing to lose. He's an open book, and I think it'll be fun visiting with him about rural politics because I think it's interesting in this moment in time with everything that's going on with tariffs and healthcare and all that stuff to get his view. I think overall in 2020,
you really let a cat out of the bag, man. I wasn't going to say anything about that. Well, I'm superstitious. I'm superstitious.
You got to tell me, well, it might end up being a fold. I don't know, but the truth is that I think it'll be a lot of fun if we're able to get him on and visit with him for 35, 45 minutes or so. But what I'd really like to do is I'd like to get some folks from the sports world or the comedy world to come on. And we've tried to get some of them from the comedian world, and they haven't accepted our invite. Yeah, we have. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but 2 of them at least. And and then the sports world. I will throw this guy under the bus because I've got a lot of respect for him, both as a basketball coach and as a human being, and that's Steve Kerr.
I knew that's what you were going to say. I knew it.
If we get this dude on, man, he's got an incredible family history. He's got an incredible history playing for the Bulls and coaching for Golden State and doing some TV commentary in the meantime. I think he'd just be really a lot of fun to visit with. But
he would be.
That's it, I mean, that's
okay.
it.
So that's our call.
As far as overall goals, it's the same one as I had before, and that is just try to let people know what's going on from just a basic standpoint, And I'll just tell you this, Marisa. I was sitting here listening to Zach talking, and I was thinking to myself, I wonder what's going to happen when Trump leaves the presidency. Then I wonder what direction we're going to go, because quite honestly, I'm moderate, and I think things need to happen in the middle, and that's why Congress has pissed me off, because they're not doing anything to keep things in the middle, and it's swinging way, 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 way too far to the right. And I don't want it to swing way, 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 way too far to the left. I want to work for families and small businesses and agriculture and rural America and our allies in foreign countries and all that stuff. And it just, what's going on right now is total craziness. And I'm just afraid it might go crazy the other way, which is crazy, if you know what I mean, as long as we're talking cray-cray.
Oh, cray-cray. I like that, Senator. We do have a few people. So let me just put a call to action out. If anybody has a way to reach Steve Kerr, I've tried to look at this. This is somebody that Senator Tester said a while ago, and I have not been successful in finding a contact. So if anyone out there has a connection, we would love to invite him on. I invited on.
But don't give us the connection unless he's okay with it. I mean, I get calls from people who I don't really want to talk to them. And
I give your cell phone number to everybody.
Yeah, I figured you did. I figured that's where it's all coming from. That and the telemarketers, for Christ's sakes.
Oh yeah.
Loans.
I did invite, so I'll say this name because I did invite somebody on who I met in Hawaii this week, and I met Judd Apatow,
Ooh.
and I invited him on because he's pretty vocal about things. So who knows? We'll see. I gave him our card. I don't.
If he calls you back, it'll be good.
We'll see if he calls it back. Somebody said Jon Stewart. Yeah, we have been efforting that.
That's the one.
Somebody
is so damn good. I'm just telling you, he is so good.
So good. Sherrod Brown. I think we can make that happen. That'd be a good one. That'd be a good guess.
Sherrod, I think would be okay.
Tracy, just okay.
No, I mean, I think he'd be okay with coming on. I think.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Sherrod's going to be great just because he's got that Sherrod Brown looking voice. I mean, what can I say?
How does a voice look?
They're two separate. He's got the hair, and then he's got that Sherrod Brown voice. I'm not very good at imitation. So.
Tracy says Rachel Maddow.
Maddow would be good, and
that is in process. We are working on that. Jimmy Kimmel. I would love to have Jimmy Kimmel.
God,
he would be wonderful.
It'd be hilarious.
Yeah, hilarious. I think we need to get.
The problem with Kimmel is there's too much fact in what he's saying. It scares the hell out of me, but he is very good. Very good.
It's very good. So all good suggestions. We'd love to hear from you. And if any of you have more, feel free to write us anytime. We're always looking for good guests. We're always thinking about fun ideas. So yes, let's do a hat check. And then we will wrap this episode up.
So I got a granddaughter that's going to graduate from Muskegon, and I don't have that hat to wear this spring. She's going to be an RN, Muskegon in Ohio. And then I had one grandson that started with M-Son, as we've all talked about with regularity on this show. And then another grandson is going to go to school at a little place in Minnesota.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a little Fargo Moorhead action at Concordia. Yeah, so that'll be fun. He's going to play soccer, and he's going to study physical therapy. So that'll be good. Yeah.
All right. But, you have grandkids in college. You know what that means?
Well, it means this spring. There's going to be a graduation that we're going to have to go to, which will be kind of cool because she's a good kid. She ran hurdles in college until this year, and so it's one of those things where since I was in the Senate, I never got a chance to see her run hurdles, and then she quit when I could get a chance to see her run the hurdles, but that's okay. She ain't gonna make a living running the hurdles, but she was an RN for sure.
Well, yeah, but that's still fun. Good for her. Her.
Yeah,
hurdles are hard. Okay, any final thoughts about 2025? You didn't really answer that question.
Any final thoughts as we say goodbye? It's been a pretty cool year. We had a decent year on the farm, and bought way more vehicles than I should have. It's an addiction. What can I say? And then it's been fun working with you. I hate to really say that publicly because the word will get out, but
ruin your street cred.
It has been kind of fun doing this trip, which has been a trip. So it's good.
It has been a trip, and we just want to thank you all for being with us on this journey. I can't believe it. We're literally about a month and a few days away from hitting our 1-year mark here on Grounded, and I just had no idea what we were really getting into. It was like day by day when we started. And so to be here almost a year later is just incredible. And again, I say this all the time, but thank you for being on this journey with us. We want to thank our guest, Zach Toombs of Evident Media, for joining us today to talk about kind of not only their work, but independent media as a whole, independent journalism, and why it's so critical right now as we move forward, as we're seeing the degrading of journalism happening all around the country. I want to thank Pearl Jam for letting us use their music every episode. And I think that's all I have. You can find us on Substack, Blue Sky, Instagram, YouTube. You can shoot us an email at groundedpcast@gmail.com. Anything else?
Tally ho. Take care.
Aloha.
A permanent shaka. All right.
Permanent shaka. Oh, I pressed the wrong button. Okay, how? There. Now we're going to end. Okay, bye.